So we are live streaming. I don't know why I always find that such an anxious moment.
Live streaming. I didn't know what live streaming was till a little while ago. No, I don't mean a few minutes. I mean a few months ago.
Yeah,
It was like
yeah.
yeah.
Well, before we paid for the upgrade, it was very hit and miss, I have to be honest. And I think that's where the anxiety or the bit of nerves comes in, Stephen. Now we've paid for the
Works.
upgrade. It goes on Instagram, YouTube. I think it goes on TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, etc. Anyway,
Right.
I'm Aurora Dawn Campbell. I'm your host, as usual, for this 30-minute entertaining session, a conversation on all things coaching, mentoring, and accreditation, and more recently, even supervision. And today in the hot seat, I am joined by the very busy Stephen Hopkins. It seems to me that you have your finger in so many pies. You're backwards and forwards to Dubai.
Yeah, I
You're
came back
accredited.
last week. Yeah.
Yeah, just last week. You're an accredited senior coach and mentor. You're the founder of Touchstones, which offers advanced workplace training for mentors. You're the chair of the Community Inclusive Trust. That's probably just a tip of the iceberg, knowing you.
Well,
Oh,
no, I
and
mean,
you've just joined the accreditation team at the
I've
IAPC&M.
just yes. Yeah, because I've got a little bit of capacity, Dawn. I don't know where
Well,
it
you know
is,
what
but
they say,
yeah.
give a busy person a job to do, and they'll always find time to do it.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
there you go.
Exactly.
We're used to juggling.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
normally,
Yeah.
Stephen, that applies to women, not men. So you've obviously got good juggling skills.
Yeah, I've got reasonable juggling skills. From time to time, yeah, I sort of think, why am I juggling?
Yeah.
Isn't there something else I could be doing? But then
Yeah.
I sort of think, well, maybe I have a go at doing another sort of thing. And then I think, do you know, I quite like juggling.
Is that a proper thing in the disc profile? I didn't see it, but I came out as peacemaker, and I was hoping it would say fire starter because I do tend to start a lot of the initiatives at the IAPCM, but maybe they didn't have fire starter. What was your
Right.
disc
I
title?
can't remember. A juggler
Oh.
certainly wasn't a one, was it?
No.
Maybe we should write our own
Yeah,
category.
I think
Fire
so.
starter, juggler. Yeah,
New set of
yeah,
archetypes.
yeah, yeah. Do you
So
know I
let me
can't
just set the
remember?
scene. Uh, People who are listening to in on this conversation, we've been called a guilty pleasure, Stephen. So people are listening in, having a cup of coffee. I'm absolutely fine with that. Um,
Yeah,
just to hear a nice conversation, really.
yeah,
But
yeah,
essentially, it started out because obviously our industry is unregulated. So I
yeah,
wanted to reach out to coaches and mentors so that I could explain and answer questions around accreditation. And
yeah,
obviously, for a lot of people, it's just something that's not been on their radar and passed them by completely. And they'll be thinking, "Oh, what's this? How is it going to help me raise my profile in what
yeah,
is essentially a sea of sameness, particularly post-COVID?"
yeah,
Or maybe you're a member of the public and you're looking to work with a coach or a mentor. We're now closer to Christmas 24 than we are or were to Christmas 23.
I
So
guess
you
so. Yeah,
may not have achieved your personal and professional goals from last year's resolutions, but you might be thinking, oh, there's only 5 months left to go. It's never too late. Then somebody
no,
like Stephen is ideally placed to help you achieve your goals.
yeah, yeah,
Maybe you're a training provider. And again, it's an unregulated market. You've just broken up, particularly the university's broken up for the summer holidays, and you're thinking about your marketing for the new season. I know I think I'm right in saying you've done some work with Marlborough College. So, league tables are very important in attracting the right students internationally. So that's kind of like a summary. So if you've got a course or you are a coach or mentor and you want to know how to add to your professional evidence portfolio, or you're looking for a coach for support and or mentor, then join in this conversation. My lovely VA is on social media and she'll be fielding any questions to us. Otherwise, Stephen and I are just going to chat amongst ourselves.
we
So
are. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I was thinking as you were speaking, Dawn. Yes, yes, we are unregulated. as in officialdom isn't requiring us to regulate. But I think what that's created, certainly for us, isn't it, is we self-regulate. The community of coaches, mentors, supervisors know how important regulation is. Accreditation equal regulation is. And so we self-accredit, we self-regulate, we solve the problem of no accreditation regulation ourselves, don't we? Essentially,
Yeah.
that's what we're doing.
And
Yeah.
that's why we set up 26 years ago, for exactly that reason.
For exactly that reason. Yeah. And I think that's what certainly drew me to the organization, because there was a standard, and of course that's what it's all about, isn't it? Setting a standard, being clear about the standard, and inviting people to come and join in the community, and work with us in a community who embrace that standard. Yeah, and I think that's what I mean by self-regulation,
Yes.
self-accreditation. Nobody's telling us we have to do it, but we're
Yes.
professionally mature enough, I think, to actually say, okay, well, that's fine, but we are going to do it ourselves because we recognize it's important.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I'm glad you mentioned the word community, because it is a question that I ask prospects, because as the business development director, I'm talking to people all the time about their views on accreditation and answering their questions. And one of the questions I ask is, what do you want from your accreditation body?
Yeah,
And because most of us are solopreneurs, they want a community. They want a
yeah,
community, professional community of like-minded people that they
yeah,
can network with all around the world. So, and I think from what our members tell us, we've succeeded in creating that as the most
yeah,
caring, sharing, practical,
yeah,
hands-on resource and community available.
yeah.
So that's very gratifying. But what brought you to the IAPC&M? Because I know you are very methodical. You did your due diligence.
Yeah. Two things brought me really. One is that I valued accreditation. I actually valued for my own self-worth and the self-worth of my skills and my practice, the opportunity to actually measure myself up against, or have others to measure myself up against, a particular standard. Yeah. So I've got a qualification, but what does that mean? It means quite a lot, but it doesn't mean accreditation into personal terms, as which is what I was seeking. So I was seeking that, but I also wanted a body where it wasn't just a secretarial process. I wanted a body, just as you say, where I mean, the word I use, because I've come from an education sort of stable, and it's quite a live concept in education at the moment, about communities of practice. So we are a community of practice, and I wanted to join a community of practice. And you know, there isn't another one that I could find that actually does something, as opposed to I guess purport to do something. It was pretty clear, you know, that things are done, and so that. And then in terms of courses, like courses that I've developed and wanted accreditation, I didn't want a university accreditation, I didn't want academic accreditation. What I wanted was professional recognition accreditation. And so same came to the same place. Yeah, because the
Yes.
same place was the right place, welcoming community of practice, like-minded people, diversity of people. Hadn't got a what shall I say, a very narrow view about what coaching is, and would only accept into that community people who practiced that very vanilla model, if you like. It's got a diversity to it, and that worked for
Yes.
me too.
Yeah. And I think that's fair to say, post 2016 stroke 17, when we move from the competencies model to the capabilities model, is much more accurate in
Yeah,
assessing somebody's ability to deliver. But it's also
yeah,
incredibly holistic and flexible. As you say, somebody could come to us and say, this is my model. I've created something out of my name, and this is how it works. And if you can demonstrate
yeah,
that, all well and
yeah,
good. We love to be, informed about something new.
yeah,
I mean, Tea Grow, Oscar, Grow, they're very popular because they work, but they're not the be all and end all. There are lots
No.
of other ways of doing it.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
about having a conversation as opposed to following a model and using the top 50 coaching questions. So,
Exactly. Exactly.
mhm,
Yeah. I always push back, certainly on courses where people are sort of saying, well, what questions do I ask at this stage? What questions do I ask at that stage? And I say, well, I can give you them. Here are some
yes.
pieces of paper, but you're not going to internalize them. You're going to remember them. And for
Yeah.
goodness sake, let's hope you're not going to look down on your piece of paper as to the question. The important thing is to have absolute DNA running through your body about what's my intention at this
Hmm.
point. If you know
Hmm.
what your intention is, then you know what to ask. You don't
Yes.
need a crib sheet.
Yeah.
And so let's work on that. Let's help and yeah, it's about attention in intention, really. For me, it's about the intention to help somebody with
Hmm.
that which they've sought some help and support
Mm.
with,
Mm.
and to do it in a way that's empowering for them. I mean,
Mm.
that's the broad intention. And then there are stages in doing that
Yes.
where that works. So I think doing the work that I'm now doing for IAPC&M in terms of, some volunteering work around the accreditation side is really, really, really good, and I'm enjoying it immensely. What that's doing is trying to square two things, really. What one is to say, here is a standard that you must meet to be one of our community of practice, but on the
Hmm.
other hand, here is the flexibility with which we accept you're going to come. So actually make making those two things fit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's not
And it's
easy to
difficult work.
communicate, is it?
It's not easy work either to do that. The
Mm.
easiest thing in the world is to say we've got a very rigid structure here. You either
Yeah.
meet it or you don't. And
Yes.
and we don't want that, because that's
Yeah.
not in the values of the aims and values of the
No.
organization. So that's the really good challenge around the accreditation, I think, and that because that's what we're
Yeah.
trying to do, isn't it?
Yeah. And certainly with the website, that's something that we've worked very hard on in the last year, and people are starting to notice it has a community feel
Feel
towards
to
it.
it. Yeah. Yeah.
So I think you've touched on a couple of really interesting points around, and I know you're working on a guide on how to choose your accreditation body. I don't know
Yeah.
how we
Yeah.
didn't, how we didn't have one beforehand. It kind of just slipped
Yeah.
through the net. How to choose your coach or mentor, how to choose your training provider. But yeah, we're always talking about do your due diligence. Why wouldn't we have a guide on how to choose your accreditation
Yeah.
body? Because we're in the business of having conversations. What we do is not rocket science.
No.
Um, and so, as building on what you said about intention, I think the other key thing that will help you ask the right questions is listening.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
forget the top 50 coaching questions. You probably only need to ask 3 or 4 in a
Or
30-minute session, are
yeah.
really good. And then you sit back and you just listen.
Listen.
And
Yeah.
how can you have a script? Because you don't know what the client's going to say. And if you listen, your
No.
next question will come out of what they've just said,
Yeah.
whether
Yeah.
that's challenging your assumption around it or their definition of it.
Yeah.
But just less is more. Less is
Yeah.
more. So
Yeah.
intention
Yeah.
to help, and knowing you've got the tools if you need them,
Yeah.
like a
Yeah.
plumber, you can pull out
Yeah.
any number of tools and techniques. But ultimately, it's around listening. Then the client feels heard and understood
Mm.
and empowered.
Mm.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. And I always find as a trainer that it's one of the challenges with a group who it's never a challenge with a group who are already coaches and you're trying to give them opportunities to develop, enhance their skills, whatever. But a group and a course that's sort of new to coaching, where they're sort of looking for the formula, and when you're resisting giving them the formula, you have to sort of ride the wave of their frustration, but it's worth riding that wave, because when they come through the other side,
and they
they get
get it.
it. They get
Yes.
it. But at the
Yeah.
time, it's a sort of, yeah, but there must be there must be this formula, there must be the manual that I
Yeah.
follow. And
Yeah.
actually, for me, I would be totally compromising, and you'd be the same, Dawn, totally compromising ourselves and what we stand for by saying, yes, there is a quick short circuit. Here's the manual. All you do is go through page by
Mm,
page, because that, much as they want that, they're never going to be good coaches with it.
mm,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it reminds me of when I was a trainer at an active listening trainer for Cancer Support France. So it's a volunteer organization. I think from memory, it was funded by Macmillan's. And we created, thanks to my training, coach training, a 2-day active listening program. So it was
Right.
just listening and silence,
Yeah.
and obviously asking the right open questions in order to then sit back and listen. And the people, because I'm an expat living in France,
Yeah.
so the people who tend to come on the course, they're volunteers. They have the best of intentions to do good. They're ex-police officers, headmistresses, matrons, they're professional people. I was
Yeah.
always flabbergasted how little they listened and that they didn't use open questions because they were
Mm,
used to interrogating people,
mm.
like, have you committed that crime? Or, did you take your pills? Or whatever it was. Did you do
Yeah.
your homework? I was absolutely amazed. It took them a good couple of hours to get asking open questions. And of course, they all thought they were really helpful. And there was this one lady, she was uh, a pastor's wife, like a father of a parish. Can't
Yeah.
remember, not a priest, but a vicar's wife.
Yeah.
And she was saying, to protect my husband, I'm on the phone all night long, giving advice, helping, etc., etc. By the end of day 2, she said, I can't believe the energy and the time I've spent giving advice when really all I had to ask was a couple of questions and let them go away and do it because they felt empowered.
Forward.
It's
Yeah.
completely changed my life. And this is what I say to students, particularly when I was head of mentoring.
Yeah.
If you get nothing else out of this course, if you choose not to become a professional, the quality of your life is just going to improve
Mm,
exponentially in all
mm,
areas because you've learned the art of asking great questions. You've learned
mm,
the importance of listening. And with that, silence. You've got comfortable with
mm,
all the different
mm,
silences.
mm.
So, yeah, very, very interesting.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
well,
So have we got any questions? I don't think we've
yes,
got
let me
anybody.
check with my VA, Rhea. Nothing yet. So,
Right.
um, I normally ask, and I usually do this at the beginning, but it just didn't want to interrupt our chain of thought because it was going so well. But outside of work, I said you're a busy man, lots of fingers and lots of pies. What do you do, Stephen, outside of work that fills your heart with joy, I wonder?
Oh dear. Well, I have a bit of a problem, with work and life and those concepts. Do you know
Yes,
what I mean? I really do have a
yes.
problem with that. And you read some stuff about, you must have a work-life balance. Well, some of what other people would call work, I would call life. I think it's quite an interesting one, isn't it, really?
Mm,
Um, what do I do? I guess I think we've talked before, Dawn. Travel is a big one for me.
yeah.
It just there's lots of things about travel. One, it just takes you off the groove that you're in, and at any one time we're always in a groove, aren't we? A groove that's
Hmm.
this direction or going round, or we're in a
Yes.
groove. It's not necessarily a bad thing, because
Mm,
actually that's how we get stuff done. But sometimes it's important to just step out of that groove
mhm,
and just smell different air, taste different tastes, see different things, and it just reconnects something, doesn't it? And
mhm,
somehow when you then return to the same groove or to another groove, you're that much more effective in what you're doing, I think. So
mhm,
travel is a great joy for me, and the any sort of travel and any sort of, but the more exotic, I guess, the location, the better, because it really is. out of the groove. You know, it
Yes.
challenges your thinking, it challenges your senses, it challenges everything really. And
Mm.
that's yeah. I'm about ready to go on another one.
You only came back last week.
I
So
know.
don't you suffer with jet lag, or are you
That
just
what tells
such a
you about the
seasoned
sort of
traveler?
groove I'm in at the moment, doesn't it?
Are you such a seasoned traveler that the jet lag is just sort
No,
of
the older
not
I
an
get, the
issue?
worse it gets, I have to say.
Yeah, but
I've
it's
I've
still
got
worth it.
family in on the west coast of America, and that's quite a hefty, 11 hours or whatever
Yeah.
flight, and time zone change. And it was the first time we did it, it was okay. I had a bit of an impact, but now it's just like days of wipeout, really.
Mm.
Which is, I don't quite know why that is. I read all about all the ways you're supposed to prevent that, and I try and implement them.
Hmm.
I never implement the one which says don't drink red wine, though. So maybe that's the key.
It
Yeah.
might be. It
Yeah.
might be. Oh
But
dear.
no, it's somehow it's just the impact it has on your body, really, somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, jet lag is still a bit of a problem.
Yeah.
Dubai was only 3 hours difference, so it was neither here
Yes.
nor there really.
Yeah.
That was all right, but very hot. It was about 47, 48 degrees, which I'd forgotten because I hadn't been to Dubai for years. And it even though people tell you that figure, until
Yeah.
you've actually experienced that heat, you forget just how
Mm.
searing that is.
Mm.
You know,
Mm.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
my
So the
friend is
heat,
in Brazil at the moment, and she says she is literally melting. The pounds are just melting away. She'd forgot, I mean, she's Brazilian, and she'd
yeah,
forgotten what it was like to step off the plane and be hit with that humidity,
humidity, yeah,
that she's just
yeah.
sweating. Well, she's a lady, so she's glowing. She's just
Glowing,
glowing
yes. I mean,
all
yeah,
day long.
yeah,
But I've
yeah.
heard this about Dubai.
Yeah, it's anywhere in the Middle East really is like that. And there's a
Mm,
great exodus, certainly from expats this time of year. There's a great exodus. They come where they can. Certainly the partners, wives, and children of guys who are out there when school goes down, which it sort of did last week or whatever, they all come back to the UK. I
yes.
guess to visit people, but mostly just to get some fresh air and some
Yes.
lower temperature. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, they're kind of
yeah.
the opposite of the snowbirds, aren't they? In
Exactly,
yeah, searching
exactly.
for
And
some
and and, and
cool.
I st yeah, I stayed in I was the hotel was paid for me. I stayed in a really gorgeous hotel, and I was very shocked and surprised at the quality of the hotel. And I did say, "Goodness me, this must be costing a fortune. I don't understand that." And they said, "No, no, no, it's about £100 a night, but it will go up to 700 in November to February
Oh, wow.
because that's when people go out."
Yes,
When
yes, of
it's
course.
nice and it's cold here, it's nice there.
Yes, yeah,
700. I mean, you can get virtually nothing in London for 100 quid a night. And it was a
yes,
wonderful hotel in Dubai because
yeah,
nobody wants to go.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well,
So
I
it
mean, my
just goes,
parents tend to spend January in Dubai, so
yeah,
yeah, just
well,
for some sun. So yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mm. Yes, I remember you saying travel was your thing. And you're right about getting out of a groove because, when people say, like an author, for instance, just getting out of the office and going for a walk in the woods, suddenly they've got an idea. It frees up the creativity,
It
just
does.
going
Yeah,
somewhere different. So that's really something that energizes you and fills you with
yeah,
ideas.
yeah. And it makes you very aware that how much context matters. I sort of
Hmm.
know it, but to
Hmm.
it, you can know it's intellectually, can't you? But to know it through experience,
Mm.
you really, really realize if I've got sometimes I do pieces of work where I have to write a report, and I love doing the piece of work. Writing the report is like it's all over, but I've got to do this for that's something I don't like doing
Yeah,
particularly. And I always take myself into the city of Lincoln, where I just live outside the city of Lincoln. I go into the public library, into the quiet room, and
yeah,
I just sit and I do it without thinking because the
yeah.
context's different.
Yes.
Um, if I was here, it'd probably take me 3 days. There, it takes me about two-thirds of a day. because
Mm,
I just sit and do it, and it's
mm,
different environments, and
mm.
it matters, doesn't it? The environment we're in
Does.
really, really matters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you've touched on a really important point because Ruby and I, Ruby Maguire, who you probably
Yeah. Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and we've got a writing course. We do it once a year, and we talk about the context of where do you feel inspired to write. Now, I'm not going to write my bestseller sat in the office.
No,
Um,
exactly.
you
Yeah.
know, so you have to go somewhere that is going to free up those creative juices and make you write like your hair is on fire and the time just flies by.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, a library, again,
Yeah.
really good idea.
Yeah.
For Ruby, it's a cafe and a cappuccino, and then she's away.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Different for different people.
Yeah,
Mm,
yeah. I know
okay.
somebody who's a writer who wrote one book. She had one book in her and wrote
Yeah.
it, and lives in London, and I can't remember the cafe, but she wrote it in that cafe. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
Well, so
Listening
did
to
J.K. Rowling,
music like
actually.
this. Pardon?
So did J.K. Rowling, apparently.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah.
Gosh. Um, okay. So you love travel. You're a very busy chap with lots of fingers in lots of pies. What's coming up next? You're working in the IAPC&M. We've got the how to choose your e-guide, how to choose your accreditation body
Yeah,
e-guide
that
rather.
they're just about in the bag now.
Yeah.
Well, in fact, that I think they are. And the next one is streamlining the course accreditation process, trying
Okay.
to yes, streamlining that. So I've been doing some work on that, backwards and forwards with David, and we've got a meeting next week to um uh, not sign it off. I don't
Yeah.
sign anything off, but to actually sort of put it to bed in terms of the next stage. So I've done with that part
Yes.
from this meeting. So
Yeah.
so that's quite important. And then where the third piece of work is looking at an accreditation for if you recall, for a coach mentor accreditation, to
Ah, yes, the
recognize that a lot
combo.
of people have that.
Increasingly,
We're,
that's what I'm
we're
hearing.
increasingly, yeah, yeah. So they work flex. They work with their clients in a way that meets the needs of their client, which is providing they are orientating themselves in terms of sometimes they're doing more directive coaching, i.e.
Hmm.
mentoring. Sometimes they're doing non-directive work. So for them to actually differentiate between those two things um, uh, is less easy. So we're doing an accreditation personal accreditation for that. So we're in the midst of trying to tease
Okay.
that out, really,
Yes.
which we're making some good headway with. And that work I was doing in Dubai was a course, IAPC&M accredited course for coaching and mentoring in education settings. And there's a very known international school, new international school, private international school in Dubai that's been piloting it and
Okay.
just finished that. And there some of those participants will be applying to do the coach mentor personal accreditation when we've got it
Okay.
sorted. Yeah. So and
Great.
that will be a good sort of road test for it with a relatively small group of
Yes. Yeah.
teachers
I mean,
actually.
I'm increasingly coming across the request for, um, a combo accreditation at all levels, even practitioner level, because
Yeah.
quite a lot of people are adding coaching to their skill set, but they've been mentoring for years in a corporate environment. So I
Yes.
had a
Yeah.
barrister who became an accredited fellow mentor, but he had only just been on his coach training, so as an accredited practitioner coach. So it
Right.
allows us that flexibility.
Yes.
And then for the organizations, like you said, in education, forces, etc., where accreditation is a given,
Yes.
it just makes it so much easier. But we will have to probably revamp the or one of the contracts templates in the secure members area. So there are some samples for newbies to download because they haven't got a contract. So
No.
maybe there's a paragraph tweak there for
Yeah.
you to to consider as well, Stephen.
Yeah, that's yeah, David and I haven't talked about that. I'll put that on our agenda actually. And
Yeah.
I know there's a need also because there is a logo badge electronic for
Yes,
coach, one for mentor. But if we're
exactly.
going to go down this road, which I'm sure we are,
Mm.
then there's a need for a design of a third one.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
David's already drawn that to my attention. That's
Yes.
something that's a consequence, and this
Yes.
obviously the contract one is another
Yeah,
consequence.
and the
Yeah,
certificate, obviously.
and the
Uh,
certificate. Yeah,
yeah, so Rhea's ideally placed to do that for you because she is
yeah.
absolutely superb at all the
Yeah,
graphics.
they're not non-insurmountable, but they're things, aren't they, that it's easy to forget to anticipate, and then
Yes. It's all
suddenly
the dotting
you
the I's and crossing the
crossing the
T's.
T's and joining the dots. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
exactly, exactly.
yeah,
And what
yeah,
about
yeah,
you personally? If somebody's listening to this and thinks, "Oh, I can really relate to Steve and I want to work with him," um,
yeah.
other than the IAPC&M directory profile, where else can they get hold of you, and what sort of work or training could they do with you, Stephen?
Okay, so they can get hold of me. I haven't got my website's under redevelopment, so they can't get hold of me there. They can get hold of me at my personal email address, which
Hmm.
is hopkins668 at btinternet.com. More than happy for people to get hold of me like that. Um, I do personal coaching, and I do coaching, mentoring, particularly around leadership. That's how I came into this business, as it were. Um, and training, certainly training. Then this new product, which is really worked, which is advanced diploma in coaching and mentoring in education settings. We're looking now from September to roll it out's wrong, to actually extend the marketing. Yeah.
Hmm.
So it's being marketed in the Middle East. But we're looking to extend the marketing there. So any educators, any schools, we've said educational settings because it could be any educational setting. It isn't just
I've got a
schools.
networking
Um,
opportunity for you.
okay,
Uh, Pretty
excellent.
sure they're in
Yeah,
Dubai.
yeah.
Um, so um, for any university or yeah, particularly a university, but any coach training academy that's listening to this, why would you, or what could you say that would make them think, right, I really need to explore accreditation for my coach training, the university course or whatever?
Okay. Because I think a university accreditation in terms of the university pathways is one thing.
Hmm.
Accreditation in terms of professional recognition by a highly reputed professional body is another. And certainly the school where we're piloting this course that I spoke about, when we were looking at accreditation, we're looking at universities as well. We had a very open-minded. They didn't want the university. They've got the university stuff. They've got what they need from university,
Yes.
and that what they wanted was a reputable, highly regarded professional organization that is actually accredits and is known for its
Mm.
yeah, what we talked about a little while about, so they can join a community of practice, so they can join something that's greater than themselves.
Mm.
And that's why I suggested strongly the IAPC&M, and that's what they're bought
Mm.
into. It did help because it's an international organization, Dawn, and they are
Yeah.
clearly international, so that really
Yes.
helped. And clearly
Mm.
they had to pass this through their various power structures, including the owner and founder of the school, and
Yeah.
he Sheikh whomever, I can't remember what his name is now. He had to put his eyes on this to make sure
Yes.
nothing was being compromised in terms of, and he's
Yeah.
very secure in terms of this is the professional organization around this that we need to join into. So
Mm.
I've got university accreditations around loads of things. That's one thing. I didn't
Hmm.
want any more of that. I wanted professional, and that's, I think, what, and of course a course can be both. A course can be
Yes.
easily both. The
Yes.
course can be accredited. You could get I know, potentially you can get you could get an MSc, but you could also get equivalent to level 7 IAPC&M professional endorsement
Hmm.
as well. Yeah. So I
Yes.
think it's not
Yeah.
an either or, but I do I
Hmm.
do I do think it's yeah, universities can be a little bit insular looking in terms of there aren't other routes than their
Hmm.
community, and there are
Hmm.
other professional communities. So I don't know if that
Yeah.
helps, but that's where I would come
Yeah,
from
it
on.
does, because I'm
Yeah,
always looking for empirical evidence that will say to them, this will help you stand out in a very crowded, noisy digital space when you're
yeah,
attracting the best students.
yeah,
The league tables matter. So,
yeah,
yeah, I mean, I think the work that you're doing will give me some empirical evidence that I will be able to
yes.
share as well.
I'm
So
hoping so.
that's
Yeah,
great.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, well, I'm conscious of the time. I've
Good.
kept you a few minutes longer than I said I would.
Don't
It's
worry.
always
Been
a
nice to
pleasure
chat.
chatting to
Had my
you.
cup of
Thank
tea.
you.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
And nothing from Gillian. So if anybody's got any questions as a result of listening to Stephen, you can use the comments box. You can use the contact page, both for Stephen and I, or you've got his personal email address if you want to liaise with him directly. And if you've forgotten his email address, just send me a message and I will forward it on to you. So thank you
Bless you,
very
Dawn.
much,
Thank
Stephen.
you.
It's always a
My
pleasure spending
pleasure.
time with you. I learn a lot. And I will see everybody else again next week with another interesting guest for a great coaching conversation. Thank you.
Thanks, Dawn.